Welcome to English for Engineers. I'm your host, Olivia Augustin. Tune in as we dig deep into all things technical English, business English, and international business communication to bring you a lifetime of knowledge in a digestible format. Today's guest at the English for Engineers podcast is Rebecca van Raamsdonk, and she is the founder of NABU Academy, a Dutch language school for advanced learners. That means B2 and C1 on the C4 level, for those who are interested in that kind of details. Rebecca studied and lived in Paris and Lisbon, and is now back in her native city in Amsterdam. Welcome, Rebecca. Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Really excited to speak to a fellow teacher who is also teaching on an advanced level, as I am. Tell us a little bit about yourself, because that was a short one-sentence introduction.
Yeah. You already said the most important parts. So I'm Rebecca van Raamsdonk, and I'm the founder of NABU Academy, and that's a language school especially for advanced learners, a Dutch language school. I have to specify.
Oh yeah, we didn't say that.
And even after 12 years of introducing myself in almost every class that I teach, I'm very, very bad at introducing myself.
Yeah. So how did you end up teaching Dutch? That's maybe a question that listeners could be interested.
Sort of by coincidence, I have to say, because I didn't. I studied French at university in Amsterdam and also in Paris. And in most Dutch high schools, French is a compulsory subject. So that means that there are quite a lot of teachers. And one of the questions that I was asked regularly when I was, as a student, when I was doing my studies, was, "Oh, so you are going to be a teacher?" And I always said, "No, definitely no. I'm not going to be a teacher," because I don't know, I didn't feel like teaching. But then after a couple of years, it was maybe last year of my bachelor, I had a friend who had a friend who had a friend, and they were looking for language teachers, Dutch language teachers, Dutch as a second language. And she said to me, "I think you're a good match. I think you will do well in this school, and also that you will do well, teaching Dutch." So I said, "Okay, let's give it a try." And I was very, very, very nervous. I mean, I don't think it was maybe the most scary thing for me in my life so far.
The first class you were studying in.
But I loved it. Like after one class, I was still a bit shaky, but after the second class, I was like, yes, I love doing this. The interactions with the students, just the connection, the social aspect, but also like the more like the you're really talking about something important, like it's meaningful. So and I never stopped teaching actually after that. So I specialized.
It feels like being a teacher with adults who really need to learn the language to get on with their career, with their life. I sometimes compare it to, it must be the same feeling that rock stars have on a podium, that interaction with your audience and like really feeling that you're changing their lives in some way.
Because
sometimes you do.
Sometimes it feels like a sort of show as well. Like, not that I'm giving a show. I mean, I'm there to help, of course, but like in a good, when it's like a really
you have to entertain your students so they keep being engaged.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you have to be present yourself too. I mean, you cannot be distracted.
No.
And the feeling it gives, like, I think I agree with you. You can compare. Yeah. You can compare us to rock stars. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, or maybe rock stars, or maybe like performing at the live stage, to a live audience. At the theater.
Yeah,
definitely. feeling very Shakespearean now.
Performance.
Okay, so you kind of by accident became a Dutch teacher.
Yeah,
and you built your academy, your language learning school, around the idea of helping advanced learners.
Yes.
So you don't start with the hello, my name is
No.
in Dutch, but really people who are already living here for a while or speaking the language for a while. And the thing is, why it's also the thing why I asked the question, but it's also the reason why I invited you on the podcast. Because to be honest, what is a Dutch teacher doing on an English for Engineers podcast?
Yeah.
But the thing is, in essence, there are a lot of similarities from learning one language to learning the other language, and there are a lot of techniques that work in every language.
Yes, I totally agree.
And I'm teaching advanced learners mostly. You are teaching advanced learners. So those techniques that we teach, that we use, are similar.
Yeah, definitely.
And so whatever techniques you use, they can be useful for my listeners as well. So that's, dear listeners, is the reason why Rebecca is on this podcast, not because I want you to learn Dutch. So, okay, back to your language school.
Mhm.
It's built around advanced learners.
Mhm.
And when you're already quite good, quite fluent, even though I hate the word fluent, dislike the word fluent.
Mhm.
If you're already quite fluent in a language, there are new challenges, new barriers, new problems you face or could face. How do you help people feeling at home in Dutch? Because for those who don't know Rebecca, and maybe you have a look at her website, but that's a big thing on her website, is making people feel at home in Dutch. And that's a phrase that I really like, feeling at home. So how do you make people feel at home in Dutch, like a second home?
That depends on the person, because I think, well, if I go, yeah. So the thing I like about teaching advanced learners is that it is so much more than just learning the language. There are so many other aspects. They also play a role at beginners level or even intermediate levels, but I think that at an advanced level, you also have challenges that you might have in your native tongue or maybe a second language that you learned earlier in life. Like, how do I write a good text? How do I give a good presentation? That are things that are difficult in any language, or at least a skill in any language. And what I like about teaching advanced learners is that I can help, improve their language skills, like in Dutch, like the words, the grammar, pronunciation, but also like this more language part, not related to Dutch part. Like, what is a good text? What are maybe some sort of rules or things that most people like in the Netherlands, because there's sometimes a certain style, longer sentences or shorter sentences, but also like what's a good text for you? How do you bring what you want to say into words, like written words? But it also helped, like not written part, but the spoken part, like preparing for an audition for, a real performance artist, like not a teacher, but like a real performance artist who wanted to audition for a special course, like preparing that audition. And that are things that I really love doing. Well, that's first to say, to answer your question, like there are so many aspects. That's what I like about it. And what I've noticed, so I've been teaching for 12, almost 13 years now, and I taught many levels. But since, let's say, 5-6 years, I was specializing in these more advanced levels, and I have my school since 3 or 4 years. And what I noticed is that so many people said to me, like, okay, I speak Dutch to you, but I don't speak Dutch to others. Or when I'm at a Dutch party, I don't say anything, or I just say the bare minimum. That's it. And I was having like fantastic conversations with these people on philosophical subjects, on political subjects, sometimes on emotional subjects, like how do you feel? What do you think of this? Like literature, music, whatever. And I was like, no, but how is this possible? I sort of had this misunderstanding in my head as well. I think that if you know a lot about the language, like words, grammar, pronunciation, then
you can express yourself.
Exactly. That's not the case, or at least not for everybody. So yeah, I wanted to help people being able to express themselves. And Well, on the question how I do that, because that was the main question. I didn't forget about it.
Not the main, but also the why.
What? Yeah. So how that depends on the learner itself, like the goals, personal goals. I think there are many ways of learning Dutch, and also many different styles maybe of learning and preferences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I do like some ways better than others, and I also think that for most people certain things work better. But well, maybe we get to talk about. Yeah, so tell me,
what way of learning Dutch do you not like?
With a textbook.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it.
Yeah,
shoot me dead. Yeah,
with a textbook, that's like sort of not connected to your real life.
Yeah. True.
Also, not a big fan of. Well, this depends a bit, but like on a very strict like learning way, especially at a high advanced level, I think it's better to integrate the language as much as you can in your daily life, and also to take off the pressure. Like, I have to study, because you don't have to study anymore. I mean, you have to practice, but you don't have to study.
Exactly. About that, you don't have to study, you have to practice. At the end, one of my questions digs a little bit deeper on that point, but we'll come to that a bit later. So that's why we really, the both of us, we connect on that level, that we like practical and accessible language courses, and that there's nothing more boring than a school book. So, and I had, that sounds a bit over the top when I talk to a Dutch person. To an American or English-speaking person, I would not hesitate to say, I had the privilege to be in one of your classes. But now that we're both of us are living in the Netherlands, that sounds horribly over the top. Talking about cultural differences in language use. But I did attend one of your lessons, and it was really, really fun. Two different levels for me. Number one, it was really fun to see how you engaged your students and how you did the whole class. And I also attended it because I actually wanted to like snoop around and see how others do it. And it was like, very similar, very, very similar. And I thought, okay, then I'm doing good, because I liked her class, so mine are not bad either.
Yeah. Happy to hear.
It was really practical. It was accessible. It was inspiring, because there were you fine-tuned a few of my things. But can you maybe explain how you make that tremendously complex language called Dutch? How do you make that more relatable or easier to understand, to grasp for advanced learners? Because I am fortunate enough to have German as a mother language. So the complicated Dutch grammar is not that far away. But if you come from, not from Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Dutch it's nerve-wracking to learn. So how do you help your students to do that? And now it's a connection to the engineers. Are there parallels that engineers could have when they want to learn or master technical English?
Yeah. Okay.
Long question.
Yeah, long question. If I forget the second
so how
part,
do you make
please
it? Okay,
remember.
let I always teach clear is kind, so let me cut it down to clear. How do you make Dutch easy?
Yeah.
And how can it help my engineers who are listening?
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I'm not sure if I make Dutch easy. I'm definitely not.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Like, I'm not sure. Maybe I do, but I don't realize. I don't know. Well, since I'm teaching only students who already have this B2 level, they know, at least in their head, almost all the grammar. If it's not all the grammar, they've studied it before, or they picked it up like in a more natural way,
informal
by
way,
listening, etc. So we don't work, or I don't. Sometimes, well, there's several teachers, so but I'll talk for maybe when I teach. It's not about explaining those grammar rules, but we do have a online part where you can
tech vault with a lot of videos and explanations.
But it depends, because for some it's like the word order that's very difficult. For others it's maybe spelling, or it's when to use to and not to use to. I mean, for those
the end of the verbs.
Yeah, but also ik probeer te oefenen.
The infinitive. I try to. When you use the to in front of a verb.
Yeah.
It's
and when you don't have, so it depends. For some, so we don't teach them in the classes, but we refer to like the online material. But it's mostly, let's say for most students, this is something they know with their
already.
heads.
Intuitively already.
Yeah, or intuitively, especially when German is their mother tongue, or they have maybe other Scandinavian languages. But it's in their head. And I think the biggest problem is that it's not
from the head
here.
to the heart.
Yeah, so somewhere here, no, it doesn't work like that, I know, but somewhere from here to here, there is a problem. I think that's the most important thing we work with.
Okay.
So,
it's a barrier, to break down a barrier somewhere between your brain and your tongue.
Yeah, and then it could be like a barrier from, like, coming from maybe fear of judgment or something like that. But it could also be just, it's here, but when you start speaking, you just forget thinking about it. It can also be both. And there's a bit more work to do. But what we do in the classes is speaking all the time about subjects that are interesting to the participants, to the students. So they say before we start, like, okay, I like talking about these subjects, and then we pick some. So we don't have a fixed schedule for all the classes. So, every course is different. And when we are talking, we correct all the mistakes, smaller mistakes, sometimes bigger mistakes. If it's like a recurring mistake for the to, like before the infinitive, like I just said, we might explain briefly, like in 30 seconds, and then refer to the video. If it's a word, which is the correct word, sometimes it's pronunciation. And I think that makes it at least feel easy.
because you don't interrupt their flow. Yeah.
So it's like small with gestures, sometimes just small, sometimes after a sentence, sometimes I just write something in the chat and I come back to it later. And it feels, I think that makes it feel easy. I'm not sure if I make Dutch easy, because I think that's something that's out of my control.
You make the learning part, the language is complicated. There's just no discussion about that, but you make the learning part easier.
Yeah.
I like what you said, because that's completely the same as I do it in my conversational classes, in the Convo Club, as I call it. I let them talk. I write something down in the chat. Sometimes it's a hand gesture, especially with, just was thinking about that when I have Dutch English learners or Dutch students, and they pronounce the U very often as a U instead of an A. And then my gesture is always with making that tent gesture with my two hands, and they know that's an ah, and then they go back and it's like support, and then it's support.
Great.
But and a but, stuff like that. Yeah. And you know what? Now that you were talking about, you have that video vault where you refer students to. I think that's actually a super smart method. And I tell you why, because you could explain for hours, and if you don't push the right button with your student, maybe they still don't understand it. But that way, they do a kind of a self-study. They have to work through the material themselves, and then they come back, they talk again, and then they get feedback about if they did understood it correctly or not.
Yeah, definitely. And there are also some exercises, so 2 or 3 exercises to put it, the knowledge into practice, because otherwise you're still working on this part and not on the this part. And I try to make those exercises as relatable as possible. So not like fill in the right word, but just listen to a conversation, write down all these sentences, or just finish this sentence, or write about your day and use these words or this structure.
I really like the that you have such a video vault of videos that you can refer your students to. I'm just too lazy to do that, I guess.
I can give you some tips afterwards, like, because
Yeah,
I'm
please.
quite lazy. Well, I'm not saying I'm lazy, but like I don't like editing, for example.
Yeah,
There's an easy way to do it.
I really like talking, so that's why I just have them talking to me. No, but what I do, or what I try to do, is if I am asked the question, I normally don't give my students a direct answer. I try to, I'll have them giving me an example sentence. And I write it down, or I have them writing it down in a shared Google document or something. And then I try to ask them questions until they realize where the problem is, or until they see the underlying system, the underlying structure, or the underlying rule. And that takes a bit longer normally. But generally, I don't have to repeat it ever again, because they had to develop the rule by themselves. They had to discover the rule by themselves, and then it's clear.
That's a great method.
Yeah.
And well, now I think of the second question you had, like, how could this help engineers? I think it's, or especially in technical English, like we work from, so we work with the interests and goals of all the students. So we have small groups. And I think, but well, correct me if I'm wrong, that for technical English, it's the same. You don't need to talk about, or to be able to talk about subjects that you never have to talk about, because they're not related to your expertise. So you only talk about, well, the things that you have to talk about. I think that's very important, and also to make it relevant. And once it's relevant, so we don't work with word lists neither. It's just words that come up during the conversation on a certain topic. And after that, we make exercises with those words. But so all these words were needed. We needed those words in a real conversation. And that's what makes it relevant. Also makes it most of the times easier to remember those new words, because you remember that you were laughing about it maybe, or that you was surprised by how it was,
or had a hard time pronouncing it.
So there are all kind of things connected to it, and that makes it easier.
Easier to remember.
At least easier. Yeah.
True. Yeah, there's nothing worse for an engineer than boring stuff, I guess. So to keep it engaging and keep it interesting, that's
I start feeling like an engineer myself now too, because I don't like boring stuff neither.
Maybe
an engineer at all. Maybe an engineer in spirit, maybe.
Yeah, maybe an engineer in spirit. There are totally a lot of engineers in spirit out there, with like an engineering heart.
Yeah. Okay. I never thought about myself like that.
Structures.
But, yeah. No.
Like that's another topic. Okay. Let's go back to language. Okay. Oh gosh, with you I always forget that I'm recording. So
I think that's a good.
That was we were already starting about that. It's not only grammar. We both hate grammar books, even though it's sometimes interesting or important to refer back to some rules or structures, because you need to be understood by other people. You cannot completely forget about grammar.
And it's a system. I mean, you were talking about systems.
It is the underlying structure.
Yeah.
You cannot build a house without a foundation. Exactly. You need that foundation.
Yeah.
When I'm working, that's it. When I'm working with my engineers, the grammar and vocabulary part is not the most important thing. Because, to be honest, English grammar is not that complicated. The sentence structure is quite strict. So if you have that subject, verb, object, rhythm in you, then it's always the same. It's very repetitive. The tech vocabulary, I would say 75% they already know, because a lot of the literature is already in English. So they know their tech vocabulary, but they don't know how to use the language as a tool for effective communication. Yeah. So how do you bridge that gap between the technicality of the language and the let's call it human application? Because there's the boring grammar part, or the technicality of the language, but we're all human beings, and even native speakers make language mistakes, and then we just call it a dialect.
Yeah.
And but so it's so fluid language. So how do you gap that? How do you bridge that gap between boring grammar and being a human being in your lessons?
Mainly by emphasizing this, that language is not some sort of, well, there are rules, but some rules are quite flexible. Languages change. People have preferences. There are differences between generations. There are differences. They're different contexts. You use other words when you talk to your colleagues than when you talk to friends, or depends maybe a bit on your colleagues. But if you talk to the teacher of one of your kids, to the neighbor,
or your old grandma,
I
use different words in German than to my niece. Yeah,
definitely. I also adapt my speaking speed when I speak to my grandmother.
Yeah.
So language is not like one thing. There's not one sentence that's correct. What I really want to emphasize, and I think I emphasize it in most of my classes, in podcasts, and whatever I do, is that it's not, there's, of course you can make mistakes, but it's not like there's one thing that's correct and like 100 other things that are incorrect. There are different ways of saying things. And this applies mainly for my students, but I think for yours as well. It's not like a test all the time. You don't have to see speaking Dutch as a test, like every sentence again. Like you have to prove that you speak good Dutch, that you are qualified
capable
enough
and worthy to open your mouth.
I mean, you don't have to do that. Some people sometimes, for integration stuff, you need to pass an exam. But that's just one exam, or several. But that's them.
It's one point in time.
Exactly, not all the time. So that's something that I really want to emphasize. I'm emphasizing it again here now too. It's not a constant test.
There is no such thing as overemphasizing when it comes to that point.
Yeah,
I'm very much with you. Yeah,
that's. I think that's the most important thing. And then practicing, talking about all kind of subjects, feeling like feeling sort of everywhere, that you can have a good conversation for an hour and a half on difficult subjects. Subjects that you like, and that people understand what you're saying. That you start to embody it, to use that word.
Nice
maybe.
word, to embody it. Yeah. So, and if you embody it, then you really start feeling like at home. You were mentioning tests you need for integration, and that made me think of it's not really important for my engineering listeners, but I think it's interesting. So bear with me, dear listeners. Cultural understanding. What is a thing that you tell people from other countries? What do they need to know about the Netherlands, language-wise? What is important?
I think
to learn
the directness,
or to understand.
I mean, it's sort of a cliche, and not everybody is direct or communicating in a direct manner all the time. But there is, of course, a truth in it that Dutch people are quite direct. I think one thing that I say quite often is that this also means that you can say that you don't like something. So if people switch to English, or they start correcting you and you don't like that, that it's perfectly okay to say that you don't like that. Maybe, like, you can say, like, stop it, or you can phrase it a bit more politely. I would go for the second option.
Yeah, I would actually prefer if you speak Dutch to me, so I can learn.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the better option, because like the Dutch directness is not always rude, or at least there are things that even Dutch people think that are rude to say. So I help maybe rephrase it sometimes. But that it means that you can say, like, that you don't like something, or that you want to change something, or whatever. This is language related. For other things, I'm always pretty careful, because I know that I am not like average Dutch. I know that nobody is average Dutch. And I'm always a bit, I would never say like everybody does this, or nobody does this, because I think, well, people are different.
It's a spectrum, being Dutch. Interesting. Yeah, definitely very, very direct. Sometimes even, especially in email writing, I found that in the Dutch language, it doesn't work if you translate it to German, then it's rude. But in Dutch emails are way more direct than German emails. And I personally think that German Austrian emails are already quite short and direct. Sometimes not business emails where you communicate with someone you don't know, but from one colleague to the other. Yeah. I was surprised, and I got an email and they just started with Olivia, comma, and then they started their question or their sentence. And in German, at least you write hello, Olivia, or hi, Olivia. Yeah. But I was like, not even a greeting?
Yeah.
Pardon me?
And was this a person you had been talking to like the day before, or was it like a couple of weeks ago, or somebody you barely knew?
No, like the day before, the same day even. Was the emails back and forth?
Oh, yeah. And I do that too, but it feels a bit strange for me as well.
And now I understand that sometimes, and I started doing it myself, I even write an email without anything.
Yeah, just answering.
I think even to you, when I sent you the link for recording the podcast, I can't remember. Did I write hi, Rebecca, or did I just, hey, here's your...
I think it was, here's the link.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure.
Look at me, how Dutch I am.
Yeah, I was not offended, so...
Yeah, but we were already emailing back and forth, so... Yeah, that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
We already mentioned your podcast a couple of times.
Yeah.
You have a podcast with tons of listeners. I have listened to it and I'm so impressed because you do all those, I call it single episodes. Yeah. You don't have guests. Yeah. You do all the talking yourself. And I'm like, wow, she has so many great ideas. Should ask her if I could steal her ideas because and just do them for English. Yeah, because I really like inviting guests and having conversations. Yeah. And we already established the fact that we don't like language books. So how does your podcast fit into your teaching approach? Yeah. Because we don't like the traditional learning methods. How is a podcast a non-traditional learning method, and what do you think about it? Why do you use it?
Yeah, great.
Why did you start
it? Well, I started the podcast a bit more, 2.5 years ago, just because I felt like, okay, let's try. That's how I started, and then it turned out to be something I enjoyed doing, and that people enjoyed listening to. To my surprise, I have to admit.
Same here.
Yeah. So that's well, take also this if you need it for the listeners as an encouragement to do just something because you feel like doing it. Give it a try.
Try it out.
Might be the best thing you've ever tried. So that's how I started. It is partly a marketing. I have to say, it's like getting out there, getting so people can get to know NABU Academy. It's also partly because I know, that not everybody is in a position to follow a course, just because of timing, of money, whatever, energy maybe. And for me personally, it's important to also share things with others. Not only, I want to contribute something like sharing ideas, helping people, etc. And I think a podcast is a great way to do that. So that's, I think for me, the two main reasons. Yeah, to start with the podcast, but also to continue doing it. But there's then this third reason that I really like doing it. And I was laughing when you said like, oh, that's amazing. And I'm impressed because I have those guests. For me, this is the most lazy thing.
Approach to do.
Yes, that's the most lazy approach because I just record and I start like with my phone, I start talking and then I push like, okay, that's it. I prepare a bit. Sometimes I stop in between because I don't edit. I don't do anything. Just because I don't like editing. I just mentioned that, I don't know, before as well. And for me, this makes it possible to have one episode a week. And now I come to your question. It is also the most natural I can speak. And for, Dutch learners, I'm not saying the most, it's like natural Dutch. And it's because when people speak, they make mistakes, hesitations. They start a sentence and then they think, oh, how am I going to finish this sentence? Like, oh, no, I changed my mind. It was not correct what I said. So you have all those kind of things in conversations. You have them all the time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what I want to show with the podcast, now there is a philosophy behind it. Like I have a reason for my lazy approach. First of all, that they get used to this way of speaking because that's how most people around them will speak. Mm-hmm. And well, you filter
language
inputs. Yeah, also language inputs, of course, and words, etc. Secondly, also to show that it's okay if they make mistakes, if they start a sentence and start again, because that's how people speak.
That's life.
Yeah. That's life. And that's why I think that podcasts are great to learn, because it's like natural speech. It's more natural than in series, movies.
Way more.
But also like the NOS journaal, like the news on television. That's also just practice and like experienced speakers. And in podcasts, it's most of the time, natural conversations.
Real life.
And also you can do it just while doing something else. So integrate Dutch in this case, or another language, English, in your daily life while you're walking, while you're, putting the dishes in the dishwasher, whatever you do. Because I strongly believe that at this level, you don't need to study all the time with a book and a paper and like colors maybe. I mean, it can help, but that's not the most important thing.
No.
It just has to be part of your daily life, and you have to feel at home in the language.
You have to feel at home. And what I always say, because when I learned Dutch 14 years ago, I was listening to a radio station that played only Dutch music, which is totally not my music style I like to listen to. But I always thought, I had the feeling I have to get the melody of the language into my head, the intonation, how it flows, how you pronounce stuff. And it was really a big help to learn the language fast.
Yeah, and it also helps remembering words, because there's this melody or there's this sentence, this context. Listening to songs is definitely my way of learning other languages as well.
Yeah, and even in the beginning, all those songs and even with podcasts, it was like one continuing and suddenly I heard single words and I know that word. I recognize that word. And I don't only recognize, because then I look it up and a week later I knew what it meant. And it's suddenly you understand the whole text, and then you think, I don't like Franz Bauer. And then you move on.
You're not the only one.
I'm not the only one. So yeah. What is your, so we said language input is a thing with podcasts.
Yeah.
Getting the melody in your head. And with my podcast, and that's the reason why I have guests, and that's something that my listeners, my students need, is they need to get used to different accents. Because when they are engineers working on international projects, then there are German engineers, there are Spanish architects, there are Polish calculators. So they need to get used to understanding the one language with a lot of different accents, even English accent, Australian accent, US accent, Indian accent in English. So that's another reason. That's one of the reasons why I have guests as well.
Yeah,
to get used.
So that's something that I miss
input
in my podcast.
Yeah, but you live in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, so you just go out on the street. There's tons of accents.
Yeah, and for most people, but that depends. That might be different for your students, but I would say 70%, like around 70% of my students, they have followed classes. So they have followed Dutch classes. And they were in the classroom with people from different backgrounds. So they are used to language, accents from other countries. I think they start working, or they get used to that quite soon, because they're like in the Netherlands in a mixed classroom. That might be different if somebody lives, I don't know, in Germany and learns English with Germans. So you only have this German accent. I never really thought about it, but I think that my students in general are very good at understanding other people speaking Dutch. Yeah.
All those distinctive tones, intonations.
Although there are within the Netherlands many different accents as well, and I hear that that's sometimes something they find difficult, and I understand.
Yeah, I still have after 14 years, and it's really funny because it's so close by. I do have troubles understanding people from Den Haag. I think they're talking very much in Dutch. You say binnenmonds, inside their mouth, and I really have to. I have less troubles with people from Brabant or Drenthe, from those parts. Even Limburg, everything's good. Zeeland, everything is good. Friesland, no problem. Even if they talk a little bit of Fries, I could.
Wow.
But Den Haag,
it's not everybody in The Hague, is it? Isn't it?
At least everybody I know from Den Haag.
I'm not an expert on accents, but I know that they're different.
I really have to focus hard.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like they don't open their mouth when they talk.
Yeah, and the vowels are different. I mean, what I know about the Hague accent is that vowels are, they're somewhere else in the mouth.
Somewhere else. I don't know where, somewhere. And I mean, Den Haag is just 20 kilometers from Rotterdam. It's so close. And that's where I have the problems. And then, other part of the country, it's really interesting.
Yeah. So here you see as well that there's this personal. Well, you bring yourself into the new language as well.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the most important thing to do. Like, and allowing yourself also to be yourself. Like, it's not it's not only knowing all the words. It's also like allowing yourself to express yourself in a maybe eccentric manner or more introverted.
In an Austrian manner.
Yeah.
I don't have.
No, I'm kidding.
No. Austrians are not that strict.
Okay.
Austrians are not very strict.
Okay, I'm happy to hear. It was
no, but I had to learn. I always tried to be super perfect in Dutch. That I forgot that I'm Austrian. I'm not Dutch, and I don't have to be Dutch in my Dutch language. Yeah. And for me, it's totally now, because I just stand to being that. I stand by that. And I think it's okay that I say, I don't have to use a Dutch saying. I can say, we have a saying in Austria, and then translate it and explain it. And every single time I do that, people are, wow, that's funny how you say, that's so interesting. I love learning sayings from other countries. Yeah. And it's enriching the conversation if you bring something from your own culture.
Definitely. Wow, you did this actually in our conversation right before we started recording.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, what did I say?
About like a cross in the church.
Yeah.
I remember.
I never remember what I said 3 seconds before.
Just because I liked it. Yeah. I liked the image. I saw the image. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just explaining it to the listeners because they were not here with us before we hit the record button. There's an expression in Austria, maybe in Germany as well. If you make something more complicated than it needs to be, the expression is that you walk with the church around the cross. And that means normally there's some rituals in Catholic Church in Austria where they have a huge cross and they carry it around the church. That's how it's used to be. But if you carry the church around the cross, then it's unnecessary complicated. And that doesn't exist in the Netherlands, that saying.
Bringing yourself and like your Austrian self into Dutch, but also like for the engineers, bringing, whatever their personality and country of origin is, to their work, to their English, to the language.
To the language. Yeah. One last question. Building confidence. Yeah. So actually the 2 no-goes in advertising a language course, I think. The 2 no-go words are fluency and confidence. But I still use them because that is what people are looking for when they're searching for something. Those are the words that's what they want to reach, confidence and fluency. And I think confidence is more important than grammar, than fluency.
Yeah.
So a lot of my clients, they really struggle with confidence because engineers, as a default, are perfectionists. Because there is no bridge that is halfway calculated correctly. It stands or it collapses. So there's nothing in between. Very often it's a life or death matter in engineering. So that perfectionism is ingrained in us. But with language, as we already said, there's no such thing as strict rules. So sometimes it's really difficult for them to get over their own perfectionism and to gain that confidence knowing they're not perfect. How do you help your students to get confident in their own abilities to communicate in Dutch?
Yeah. I like this description of the engineers and like the perfectionism that's in them. It also relates to my engineer in heart or in spirit or whatever I said, because I recognize this pattern as well. Like I'm not building any bridges, but I used to struggle with perfectionism quite a lot as well. I think, well, a misconception that's maybe the root of this. Well, yeah, I think there is this misconception that if you know everything, that you feel confident. Well, I can tell you from experience that this is not the case. Like, I know people who speak perfectly, or well, I don't believe that perfect exists in that sense, but like they speak, so to say, perfectly, and they feel like, oh no, I can't do this. Like, oh, I don't feel confident at all. I also know people who have like a lower level that feel good and speak and chat with everybody, and they don't mind, and they make mistakes, and they feel very confident. So these two things, they're not connected. I think another misunderstanding might be that being confident and speaking confidently means that you don't feel any fear, or that you might feel a bit scared. Like I think that speaking, well, having confidence or being confident and not feeling any stress. Fear might be a bit too big, depends a bit. For some, it is really a fear to speak. Like, this is not exactly the same. You can feel the stress and still feel confident. I think that's something that I want to emphasize again and again. And that we practice just by doing, because confidence, that's the third thing I strongly believe in, and might be a misconception. Confidence isn't something that you are born with, or that you have or you don't have. It's something that you build by doing. So building confidence in Dutch means speaking a lot of Dutch. Speaking with the fear, like even if it's like there, even if you feel stressed, but knowing how to deal with that stress, maybe like in an important call in whatever language it is, or a job interview. I mean, it's normal to feel that stress. It's just try to
be
do
comfortable
what you have to do
with it. Yeah,
with the stress. Yeah. Also, like comfortable. Yeah, being comfortable, but with being uncomfortable
very much.
time to time.
And what I sometimes mention with my students or in my courses is that confidence is like a muscle.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to train it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes stronger.
Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable speaking English now in this podcast? Or do you feel more comfortable now than 45 minutes ago when we started?
I do, definitely. There's always this self-conscious part in me as well, even in my own podcast that I really enjoy recording. But there are always like some moments that I'm like, what am I talking about? This is interesting. And I sort of learn how to deal with that voice and put it somewhere else and just continue. I've heard that voice quite some time.
Often,
I know. I make mistakes as well. But I do feel more comfortable now, but still I have every now and then this idea of, well, yeah.
And the other thing is that at least a thing that I experience in Dutch, because I think I'm definitely fluent and confident in Dutch. You know my Dutch. I don't think about speaking in Dutch anymore. I just do it. But the more you know and the better you get, the more often I realize how little I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Can I say it like this? Yeah. Can I say, do I have to say different? Do I have to pronounce it differently? And remember me when we're in a couple of minutes, we start recording the podcast for your podcast, the Dutch one. I have to tell you a funny story of a new word that I incorporated in my daily Dutch and that I used completely wrong. Inappropriately. Okay. A couple of times. And then I had to send out voice messages like saying, sorry, I don't hate you.
Well, I'm very curious now.
It is, yeah. So, okay. Unfortunately, the engineers who are listening to it now who don't speak Dutch, you I can't let you in on that joke because
No.
it's too much explanation.
No, but if
maybe.
they do, they can send you a message to ask what the word was.
Yes, and if there are listeners who know Dutch, just dial into Rebecca's podcast later, and then you hear my Dutch story over there. And that I mean happens after living in the Netherlands for 14 years, using Dutch for daily life, for my work, being, I would say, some on a higher C1 level. Would you say that or not? Something, yeah. So, yeah, still making mistakes, and I just ended up like I'm not really feeling that ashamed anymore. I just another great story for a Saturday night party.
Yeah. I think confidence is about acceptance, like accepting that you make mistakes, that you have this accent maybe, or that you always mix up some words. For me, I know, like, well, let's not like do a public review of my English now, but I know that I tend to speak like the last D of a word as a T.
Yeah.
Because that's how we do in Dutch. I know that I do that in English as well. If I pay more attention to it, I can, improve it. But I know when I'm in a story or in a sentence, sometimes it just slips.
It slips. Yeah. And
I know.
At the end of the day, we still understand you perfectly fine.
I hope so.
Yep. And if someone doesn't understand Rebecca or me, you just have to exercise understanding different accents more. You have to listen to our podcasts more then.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't think anybody who has reached this part of the podcast does have any. Well, this is a complete nonsense sentence, but like, yeah.
Maybe we get a lot of unsubscribers now, Rebecca.
Like, okay, now it's enough. Now I don't get it anymore.
Okay, let's wrap it up here because now it's craziness is starting. Rebecca, you do have a freebie on your website.
I do. Several ones actually.
Yeah. What's your favorite freebie? What's the one freebie someone needs to have if they want to improve their Dutch?
Yeah. Can I still name two?
Yeah, of course.
Like, okay, because it depends a bit on what your goal is. If this last part about confidence speaks to you and it's something that you feel or encounter maybe daily or when you want to speak Dutch, then I have a free masterclass. It's around 60 minutes on, this fluency, building confidence. It's called Van Onzeker naar Fluent.
From insecure to fluency?
Yeah.
From insecurity to fluency? Yeah.
Yeah. And building confidence in Dutch in 3 practical steps. If it's more like, I don't know about the confidence, I'm looking for ways to improve my Dutch and integrating more Dutch in daily life in a fun way or a way that suits me, that I like. Then I have a ebook. Very easy maybe, but like a free ebook with, I think it's around 10 or 15 just suggestions on how to improve your Dutch every day.
To download that, because I have a freebie about how to integrate learning English in your daily life, and it's just 1 page.
Okay.
With only 5 tips, so I might steal some of your tips.
Yeah, you.
So
give you permission to steal them.
No, I'm not going to, but thank you anyways. Not anyways. As always, I will put all the links of the mentioned freebies into the podcast description. If you're listening to this episode and you think, I not only have to improve my technical English, but my Dutch needs some upgrading too. Rebecca's website, the link, everything is in the podcast description, and it is a joy to work with her. I can tell you that much.
Thank you.
And it is, I promise you, it is mostly as much fun as the podcast you were now. I don't know if you were enjoying it, but that you were listening to. So that's a wrap up. That was it. This was English for Engineers. I'm your host, Olivia Augustin. Talk to you soon. And before you go, if this episode gave you something to think about, I'd really appreciate if you hit subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more engineers like you find the podcast and keeps me fueled with coffee and ideas. Want to stay in the loop? Head to my website marcode.org and sign up for the English for Engineers newsletter. I'll drop practical tips, new resources, and the occasional nerdy reference straight into your inbox. Thanks for tuning in. Talk soon.